it rattles their confidence. So part of it is you really need to know what works for you, but also when you have introverts on your team, and we are about 50% of the population, so you are going to live with us, work with us, manage us, deal with us, you want to kind of understand how to make that work and how you can bring in the talent, because there's so much talent. And often what I find is the introvert, I think ahead of in my head of the things I kind of argue in my head. Should I say this? Should I not say this? I have the whole conversation. The extrovert's having the conversation outside. I'm just like, can you shut up for a minute? Can you stop talking for a minute? And I don't need to know all your different sort of ideas. So that's kind of a little bit about the introvert extrovert. Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about appropriate use of humor when you're networking? Because sometimes I feel like that can differentiate you from other folks and it'll have someone remember you. But then when you're talking to certain people at a certain level, you probably want to put on a more professional front.
Well, there's a difference between professional humor and inappropriate humor. Even when you're dealing with senior executives, they love humor, but it doesn't mean that it's got to be something that's going to make them feel awkward or make them feel uncomfortable. And so I think in general, it's like my stupid jokes about accountants, or the technology, the Al Gore thing. People love those at very high levels. Here I am with the CEO of Ernst & Young, and I'm telling him an accountant joke. He thought he had heard most of them, and this was a new one for him. But people like that. What they don't like is there's something that's going to make them feel like, gee, did somebody overhear that person telling me that joke, and it's going to make me feel awkward. Yes?
An example, the first GMA class not in front of Roger Lawson, that you know that in front of the chairman or Roger Lawson, those luncheons get rescheduled and long. And so this is actually the third attempt to get the GMA class in a group of 10 in front of Roger Lawson. And one of the apprentices turned to Roger Lawson, who has no shortage of things to do with his day, and said to him as the opening for the luncheon, "So you finally made time for us, huh?" So my first thought is, what position are you putting the other person in?
Yeah.
Use humor. Is it at their expense? So that was probably, of many, many times, that was probably the low in the luncheon experience. And it was because the person was covering his own nervousness
Right.
at the expense of a person who had just made time for his calendar.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was probably the low for the first class.
Oh, geez.
But it was a learning experience for everybody in the room.
Yeah.
Everyone learned from that exchange.
People say to me, how did I learn all this stuff about networking? I said, I've been fired twice. I'm surprised it's not been more. And what Brian will probably remember is when you're the child of an academic, you're used to academic freedom. And I didn't know until I got into the business space that speaking up I always thought it was a good thing because that's what you have in the academic community, and only to realize in the business space it didn't work. And it took me a couple of really, really rough business experiences. And one of them actually was having an email exchange with a colleague in Australia. She missent it to our boss, and it was not a conversation our boss really needed to know, and I got fired. So in many cases, there's some of it is just kind of, again, and if you are nervous, in some cases, like you may not have noticed, but when I was standing against the wall back there, I actually was doing my breathing exercises. So I actually have my heels, my back, my shoulders, and my head against the wall. I do deep breathing exercises, but when Alicia was introducing me, so I could come out, and I come out with that sense of calm, I don't have great posture. I know I don't have great posture, so I wanted to at least come out feeling that sense of calm and that sense of, kind of perpendicular anchored. And also to kind of go to the body language, this is a quick gender sort of a thing. I saw this happen a few weeks ago, and there were three panelists, and then afterwards they were up on the stage answering questions. And the guys were all standing there like this, hands in the pocket. Of course, they're rattling their change, that sort of a thing. And the woman was over here, and she was standing like this the whole time she was taking Q&A. Every time I kept thinking she was going to fall over. There's no man who's going to stand there with his legs crossed. So again, it's that sense of presence. A woman's going to, well, you can actually knock me right over. The guy's like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here ready to, let's go play, And so in many cases, you want to be really mindful. Does your body language say, I'm not really engaged? I'm not really interested? And, and nervousness is different. And so if you're feeling at all nervous, my suggestion, maybe before you go in to meet Roger next time, is to have everybody kind of chatter ahead of time. In fact, a number of years ago, I was at Symphony Hall with Fidelity. I was a guest, and I was kind of the clump buster. So when you had all the little Fidelity, they were having this great event, and Vanessa Williams was singing, and they were filming the whole thing. And so during the break, you're out all talking. Well, I would see 5 people from the same office all talking when there are customers walking around, and no one's talking to the customers. And you have 5 Fidelity people all clustered. So I jokingly said, I was like the cluster, they would see me, boom, they would just split up, because they knew they were not supposed to be talking to each other. Now, the downside of it is that when you are maybe from 4 or 5 Fidelity offices and it's the first time you've met them, you're doing internal networking, which is extremely important. But you want to do that before you see Roger. And you want to do it before you are customer-facing. So in some cases, again, this goes into a little bit of planning to kind of take away some of the hiccups. Any sort of questions about the introvert part that we've talked about one-on-one? No? Okay. A couple just kind of go to what you were saying is some of the little etiquette sort of things. Is, when, you can't take back a comment like that. And so in some cases, you kind of maybe want to just do actually a role play. Before you go into some of these one-on-one meetings, maybe grab one of the folks in your program and say, you know what, I actually am so lucky I get a meeting with Roger Lawson, or I get a meeting with so-and-so. Would you mind role-playing this with me? Because I'm going to be nervous. We all are going to be nervous. How many of you remember the first time you drove a stick shift? Yeah, how pretty was that? What kind of car did you drive? Ford Mustang. Beetle? Remember that with optional defrost? Are you old enough to remember those Beetles? There you go. So, so how did that first time on the stick shift go? Rough. So you do not want to not practice. You want to have that rough experience before you go sit down with this person who you're going to get this wonderful meeting with. Because when you get this meeting, it's like driving the Maserati off the lot. And so role play it with somebody. We think we sound great in our head. And this is actually what comedy taught me. I think I sound just very funny. I spit it out and it doesn't quite come out that way. Round 3, round 4, round 5. And this is why the comedian never laughs. They've heard it too many times. It's not funny for them anymore. So in many cases, the more you have this practice, and this is there's a wonderful man here in town, Bob Metcalf. He's the founder of 3Com. And he talks about rehearsed spontaneity. So role play this. Write down your words. Do this rehearse so when you say it, it sounds like it's the first time. I know I've told the bad Al Gore joke a number of times, so I know I'm going to get a groan. But do give yourself the gift of having this rehearsed and being very prepared. It's a polite thing to do. Now, when you're done with this, the question came up at the break, how often do I stay in touch with this person? I'm going to suggest you stay in touch with people at least 3 to 4 times a year. If you feel like there's something more you can say it more often. If you see them in the press, acknowledge that. I can tell you, and I've been lucky to have a lot of press. I've been in the Wall Street Journal, San Francisco Chronicle, NBC Nightly News. And I get maybe 4 or 5 emails when I'm in the press. And I want to say, is that the only people who saw it? And not that I'm that, crazy of a person. But, you can be that 4 or 5 person who says, you know what, it was great to read about you. Congratulations on your continued success. Excellent question. How many people is it practical to stay in touch with? Excellent question. I'm going to talk a little bit right now about your database versus your network and some of the other things. So your database is everyone you meet. I encourage you to keep track of everyone you meet, get their card, phone number, and put it into an electronic database. Any of you who give me your card today in your database, today is your birthday. I don't know any of you well enough to send you a birthday card. Sorry. But so what will happen is I will see you in 2 years, and Mame will say to me, she'll send me an email, and I'm like, God, sounds familiar. What I'll do is I'll realize it on 7/23/2009, Fidelity. Or she'll say, I can't remember where we met, and I'll say, actually, we met July 23rd at the Fidelity thing. She'll go, oh, you have a great memory. I'm like, no, I have a database. So I have the birthday field takes over here, and then I've created a special field called Met Where. And everyone goes into my database. I use a free one. I don't know what you need to do as far as your corporate. You might want to have a corporate one versus your personal one to keep those two separate. The free one I use is a little bit robust. It's called CRM ZOHA. ho.com. If you're familiar with sales